A film is considered a language. It speaks to us and we try to understand what it's trying to say us. As a whole, the film has a message, but each piece contributes to unraveling the film's mystery. We can compare a movie and a novel. Although this association currently has been challenged in many ways, it is still useful. An image is a word. The juxtaposition of two images make a phrase. A complete scene is a paragraph. A sequence is a chapter, and we will find the same three-act structure in both, a novel and a film. As time goes by, both products will remain the same. They reflect a particular period and context. However, the people who will watch them will read them in different ways. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a shocking phenomenon during the 70s because of its crude images of torture. People ran out of the movie theaters just to avoid watching the sneak preview. 40 years later, I watched the remastered version of the film at a movie theater in Mexico. A couple of teenagers passed the whole movie laughing and saying that this was the dumbest and boring film ever. People change, movies don't. However, it doesn't mean that the film is outdated. On the contrary, we need to understand the layers of this language. Your communication degree is transforming you into native speakers of the media language. For some of you, film and screenwriting will be your second language. For some others, it will be the native one. That is why I will expect different proficiency levels from each one of you, so be comfortable with your processing this class. The meaning of a language goes beyond the words. Hence, the purpose of your story goes beyond the images used and the plot itself. When you craft a screenplay, you rely on a theme, which is the nuclear principle underlying the storyline. You are also conveying an ideology, and this is something you must be very cautious about. Race, gender, and class are part of you. We are biased, like it or not, because of the previous experiences we have gone through. For example, as a man, I cannot fully understand what it feels being a woman in a misogynist company. I cannot fully grasp the discrimination experienced lived by indigenous people in Mexico by the white privilege. I cannot conceive what it feels like not having any economic concern as the wealthy population worldwide feels. What I can do is being conscious of my bias and develop a keen understanding of other realities. As writers, we are not allowed to consider reality only from our point of view. Hence, we need to question ourselves, our principles, attitudes, and beliefs to connect with others. Now let's talk about the narrative. There are 5 things every story must have. We will discuss these elements in detail during the next sections of the course. When some of them stay at the center on several sessions, some others will be appearing once in a while as a part of larger themes. Number 1. Point of view. It refers to who tells the story. There are 2 options and only 2. Some stories present an omnipresent narrator. For instance, any Avengers film offers several points of view from each hero or villain, allowing us to witness different events during the whole movie. However, we also have films like The Great Gatsby, in which one of the characters is the only one having access to what happens in the story, and we just learn the revelations he has access to. This kind of film can play in several ways with the audience because sometimes the unreliable narrator tricks us, as in Christopher Nolan's Memento, in which the character lies to us during the whole film. Number 2. Characters. They are fundamental for the story because thanks to them, we can connect with the events. There is always a need for 2 characters. One of them is called the protagonist, and she will be the one who will experience a transformation, for better or worse, in the story. There is only one protagonist. You can have multiple points of view, but you can only have one protagonist in whom the more profound change will occur. The antagonist is the other fundamental character, the one that opposes the protagonist's intentions. Like the hero, this character also has a series of human dimensions that make this person relatable. There is one fundamental thing you must know. There is no such thing as good or bad guy. Forget about this idea. For instance, in the film Filth, James McAvoy interprets a corrupt drug addict and immoral police officer trying to get a promotion. This character is, let's use quotation marks, the hero of this story. The same occurs in American Psycho and several other films. Although we disagree with the character's logic, these protagonists believe he's doing the right things no matter how twisted they are. So, in such cases, the antagonist is the one that represents the morality and ethics that socially we identify as good. As good and evil are social constructs, we need to be aware that, although characters embody more human defects than qualities, They can be the protagonists of a story as well. Number 3. Setting. It consists of the geographical location, historical time, the season of the year, and the time of the day where actions occur. They play an essential role in the story as they could help us embody our characters' emotional states. They also cause characters to behave in a specific manner and serve to reinforce certain human traits. Number 4. Structure. In this case, the most important thing is the story, which we call the plot. The series of actions will move from one point in time to a new one, transforming our protagonist into someone new. As we will see later, each act has a function, and we cannot conceive them without some series of specific moments. I will reserve this information for later, but keep in mind that the first act introduces all the elements necessary to move the plot forward. The second act will show us the protagonist's journey to succeed over a series of problems that will increase as long as this character reaches the end. And finally, the third act will present the resolution of the central conflict, the end of the protagonist's transformation, and the lesson the audience must reflect on. These three acts are patched together thanks to plot points that allow the story to move in different directions. Crafting the structure, you must pay attention to the genre. The genre refers to the predictable elements or conventions that trigger the interest of the audience. They set expectations regarding the directions of the story. The writer's goal is using them to surprise the audience by avoiding the familiar places of that genre or using them in different ways. For instance, in the film Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, we follow two people who dwell in mountains area and are mistaken for murderers by a college students group. The film uses horror conventions but presents the typical heroic teenagers as the movie villains. Number 5. Symbolism. Any image, object, character, setting, or sound charged with meaning beyond its social definition is called a symbol. It is always something concrete. We can have universal symbols, such as a clock, to indicate the character's life running out of time, like in the film Wild Strawberries. Some others are related to a specific culture, for instance, the United States flag raised by soldiers in Iwo Jima in Clint Eastwood's film Flag of Our Fathers. Each story can transform a specific object into a symbol by repeating that element several times during the plot. For instance, a red balloon can symbolize in one film the innocence from childhood, as in the short film The Red Balloon, but it can also represent an evil threat, as in Stephen King's It. Finally, remember that you are the one in control of each one of these dimensions in your story, but be aware that there is always a spectator that you need to consider when making these decisions. If you have a target audience always in mind, it will be easier to select the specific elements that will convey a more accessible story for them, resulting in a compelling film to the spectator.